What's up, traders? Welcome to today's Equity Empire Chart Analysis session. When most investors are throwing darts, we're looking for clues in the charts. My name is John McHugh. I'm a former Wall Street analyst, hedge fund manager, and independent trader for the better part of 20 years. Today, we've got a special session, and the reason I say it's a special session is because the trade setups that I overview in today's session are not going to be my picks. They're going to be suggestions from Team PelicanTrader. Those are the followers of PelicanTrader who responded to my question a couple days ago. I was looking for trade setups, and I wanted to know what people were interested in. And I got a whole long list of great-looking trade setups. So I'm going to try to cover as many of these today as possible. If I miss one that you've suggested, I'll come back with future videos to cover those. So there's some great suggestions. Let's get right into the action. First of all, let's take a quick look at the stock market, the broad stock market. This is the S&P 500 index over the last 5 years. As you can tell, we've been in a strong uptrend for basically outside of the 22 to mid 23 time frame. We've been in an uptrend, and then you had the tariff tantrum here. But we're up near all-time highs. Okay, and we've had a very, very powerful bounce off the April lows, and so we could get a broad stock market pullback at any time now. I mean, whenever you see a chart that's just trending up, 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 it wouldn't be surprising to see some profit taking or to be some consolidation or maybe a 5 to 10% pullback. That'd be completely natural. So because if you take a look at the late summer of 2020 in this blue area here, at the end of the summer, we got into some chop when we started to get into September, October, and then we continued higher. Could we start to undergo the same kind of thing here? Yes. I mean, we absolutely could. I'm not making that forecast, but I'm prepared for it if it does happen. Okay, let's get right into the suggestions. I'm going to start off with a couple suggestions from Zhao. So here you go, Zhao. Thank you for your great questions over the last few weeks. Let's get right into it. MP Materials. Well, MP Materials has run from 10 to 70 in the last year. So generally, I try to get something at the start of an uptrend. Okay, and the start of an uptrend would be something like this. Here's our downtrend. Right at the break of that downtrend is where I'd be looking for an entry. Like a break of the downtrend, I'll pull back for support, and then continue higher. So somewhere around here would ideally be an entry, but that doesn't mean maybe it's not too late. This is a rare earths stock, and it's going to be in incredibly high demand. So I'm just going to look at clues in the chart here, not get into the fundamentals. And what we can do when we look at the chart here is, first of all, I would not suggest chasing up at this price. I'm okay with missing this if it goes to 100. But what I would ideally be more interested in doing is be looking for a support level. And there's a support level right here. So if we could get a pull back to 64, have a protective stop just below 58 for a trade, that would be the entry I'd be considering. Otherwise, we'll go all the way down here to 32 and probably not getting down there anytime soon. Okay, so one support level to consider for MP. Let's go take a look at Bull. Webull, okay? If we stretch out the chart here, Webull is right now in a sideways pattern. You got higher lows, but we have lower highs. So there's a little bit of a wedge forming right here. And I'm not going to get into a wedge. I'm just going to look for support levels. And there is a support level right down here. If we can get a pull back to 1364, and there's another support level just below that. Okay, so you might combine those two if you wanted to do that particular trade. So it's a zone on top of a zone on top of a zone. Okay, so there's definitely a lot of support down here in Webull, all the way from 10 to 13. Pick your spot for entry. If you were to do that trade, have a protective stop at the bottom of one of these levels, and then we do have new resistance to consider, and that resistance level is right here. Okay, so that doesn't mean we're going to stop going up at that price, but one reason that that price may have stopped in the 17, 18 price range is oftentimes this is a de-SPAC. So this is a company that came public via SPAC, and when companies like Webull issue stock in a SPAC, they often attach warrants to it, and some of those warrants can be started to be called in the 18 price range. So that may be one of the reasons for resistance at 18. I'm not going to overanalyze that. That's a technical resistance level. Let's get into another one. NB. NB is, this one is very interesting to me. So great suggestions, Al, once again. 3 interesting looking trades to consider here. Okay. What we have here is we did have a downtrend and we've started an uptrend in NB. It's another rare earths play. So let's go look at the technicals to see if there's an entry or maybe a potential entry or a target. And I'm not going to say unfortunately, but there has been very strong demand here with very few pauses. So there's not any real strong support here. It's just buying, 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 buying. So if we do get a pullback, I wouldn't know how to construct a zone or a range for a level. So the first one actually see here on this chart, wrong zone here. That's a support level, would be way down here. If we can get an opportunity back to 288, which probably didn't happen anytime soon. And then there's support right down there. If we go to a lower time frame, you might consider this. Now we get into something interesting. At a lower time frame, you have a breakout above this level here, and a breakout of prior resistance can often be considered support. That's old school technical analysis. So if you were looking for a support level using a lower time frame, we'd have a support level right here to consider, just at the breakout point. Okay, so in the 433 protective stop, maybe 399. There's a whole bunch of little support levels below here. Support level there, support level there, support level there. This is just basically support level stacked on support level in the hourly time frame. So it's going to be in this case, you just kind of have to pick one of these zones that you want for your entry and keep a tight stop on there, because you don't want this thing to unravel. And these companies are very dependent on raising capital to start mining the rare earths. So you could have a news announcement of a big financing at any time in these stocks. So you got to be aware of this. And those financing, we have no idea where those financings might occur. Maybe it occurs at 4, maybe it occurs at 350, maybe they do a huge fundraising at $3. We don't know. So you have to be prepared for a big fundraising announcement at any time. So it's very difficult. If you have a protective stop at 398 and they do a fundraising at 3, that stop is going to be meaningless. Okay, so you'll get filled at the first trade the very next day. But very interesting trade setup, South. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one. Next one would be Lilly. Now, generally, I avoid stocks in downtrends like this. I just avoid them. Well, first of all, when I started investing, I was buying dips. I would buy dips. The bigger the dip, the more excited I get. That's called catching a falling knife. And my hands are scarred from trying to catch falling knives my first couple of years as a trader, so I just stopped doing it. Okay. I'd say 90-some-odd% of the money I've made in trading has been in something that's showing relative strength in an uptrend. But if you want to be a value, if you're trying to pick off some value here, there is a couple support levels. There's a support level we're currently in. There's a support level just below that. So there are technical support levels here in Eli Lilly. But as I said, generally I look for uptrends. If you want to be looking for a bounce, seeing some value here, these are the levels you might consider. All right, beat culture, PSTG. PSTG, we got a couple support. We got a couple support levels on the resistance level. We're in a sideways trend. Okay, so we are chopping sideways. Here we had higher highs, we had lower lows, and we're now trying to figure out what we're going to do next. So in a sideways trend, we're simply going to draw a couple support level and a resistance level. There's a support level right here. Let's go up to 50. So right around the 50 to 45.88, and then there's a support level below that, right down here, 36.91 to 30.97. Okay, and then we have resistance right up here. Resistance right up here in the 67.97 to 73.21 price range. Okay, so you could trade either direction on PSTG. Have LVMH, another downtrend, which once again, I generally avoid stocks in downtrends. I want to see proof that the buyers have started to overwhelm the sellers. Right now, the sellers have control of this. And while the sellers have control, I'm not interested in the trade. This is one of the premier apparel and handbag and high-end beverage companies. So at some point, there's going to be value here. That's just not the way I generally trade. But if you're looking for technical clues, there is a support level we're currently in. So we're currently in a support level, and that's why it's kind of found a little bit of support there. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed to stop there. But there's a support level there. And then you got another support level down here in the 325 to 265. So 2 support levels. And then we do have resistance right up here. And that would be right where we started to drop in a meaningful way earlier this year at the 677 to 747 price range. Okay, so that's LVMH. Let's move on. KNW was a suggestion from Real Tim Donnelly. All right, KNW. That's been in a downtrend for a long time. That is just, like I said, that's been in a downtrend for a long time. I'm going to point out a couple support and resistance levels, okay? So it looks like there's a support level, there is definitely a resistance level right here at 344, okay? And then I just bring that down a little bit closer to there. 322 to 443, there's definite resistance, okay? I'm going to have to bring that down a little bit more for resistance. Let's call it the 3 to 440 price range for resistance. And there's a little bit of technical support here, but not a whole lot to work with. And that's right there, which we did bounce off once. And that's 185 to 142. So we did bounce off of it. So it looks like there may be some support there. Maybe some buy orders waiting to buy at 185. Okay, so that's KNW. IonQ, crack 9, IonQ. Let's go take a look at it. So yeah, we had been in a very powerful uptrend, a big pullback, retested. Take a look at this. We retested this resistance level in May, and that resistance level was right here. So there's a resistance level. We tested it, rejected, tested it, rejected, tested it, rejected. We have to generally assume that there are big sellers waiting every time it gets to 48. So that's definitely a resistance level. Our support level is right here. Our support level is in the 37 to 32 price range. Okay, so we're playing ping pong between 37 and 48. Okay, so that's where IonQ, you'd have to break either one of those two levels for the trend to reassert itself. But right now we're sideways. You can trade either direction, IonQ. FF Nerd has 3 suggestions in the rare earth space. Another was NB, which we already covered. We have CRML, which is beautiful looking. That is absolutely beautiful looking CRML. So if we can break above this level here, so here's our resistance level. If we can break above there, I'm just going to draw the resistance levels first. There is resistance right up here at 6 to 650, and there's more resistance all the way up here in the 9 range. Okay, so there's the 2 resistance levels to be aware of. If we can break above this high here, it could be a quick move to 6. Now, where do we have support? That's an aggressive entry. This could be the breakout entry if you just simply wanted to buy a breakout in the 465 range. If you wanted to buy that breakout, then you got to figure out where your protective stop is. That's up to you to determine how much risk you want to take. But I'll show a couple support levels. And when I show these support levels, the reason I do that is to show where you might consider, if you wanted to wait for a pullback, there is a support level right here in the 343 to 271 price range. Another support level just below that. So zone on top of zone once again. So anywhere from 2 to 350 there's support. And then you got this pretty clear support level. I don't know if it's getting down there anytime soon at 174. Okay, so there could be a pullback to 343, bounce off that level. There could be a potential just buy the breakout, have your protective stop somewhere in the 3 to 340 or below one of these levels. Okay, and then resistance is at those 2 resistance levels. All right, USAR was another one. This is one I posted on my X page, PelicanTrader, at Satori Trade, PelicanTrader on X. And I did post this a couple weeks ago on USAR. Same kind of thing where you got resistance right here. If we can break above there, it could be there could be a big strong move above that. Once again, this company needs to raise more money. They raised about $75 million several months ago, but they have said that they need to raise a couple $100 million if they're going to start mining the rare earths. So we could get a pullback at any time on a fundraising announcement. But I'm just going to look at the clues on the charts once again. And there's a support level right here in the 1420 price point. There's another support level right here. Support level 1356 to 1057. And then you got another support level. There's a real nice support level down here at 945.8. And then there's not, on this time frame, there's not really any clues of technical resistance other than this level right here is where price, let me draw a little circle there, where price reverses in the past. You can kind of generally assume that someone wished they had sold more there, so they might have more selling to do in the 1850 price range. This is also another DSPAC. Once again, the 18 price range can be a resistance that has to do with that warrant call price. Okay, so those are a couple considerations for USAR. Let's move forward. Thank you, FF Nerd. Great suggestions. I'm trying to find ways to get into that rare earth play. USAR, by the way, is calling it the investments that the United States are making in rare earths. They're calling that it's basically a mega trend. Okay, so let's get in the next one. TLRY. TLRY from Rakos. TLRY. We started an uptrend. A beautiful little breakout there. Found resistance. Let's just draw the line where resistance was. So there's some resistance right up there. Don't know exactly why. There wasn't much of a clue there. But we stopped going up there. Can consider that resistance. There's another clue of technical resistance right here. Wrong level again. Okay. And then we got support right here. So one support level and one resistance level is all I'm going to do on Tilray. There you go. So if we break below there, back to a downtrend. If we can break above there, maybe we'd have to break through that resistance level to continue heading higher. Maybe start working our way towards one. The company probably has to get compliance to maintain their listing. They'll probably do whatever it takes to get the stock above one. Okay, but I'm just looking at technical clues on the charts. All right, next suggestion nearer Sanmina. Sanmina, all-time highs. All-time highs. How do you trade a stock at all-time highs? There's no resistance. So all I'm going to do is look for support levels. There is a support level right here at 117 to 113. Another support level just below that. 113 to 110. Another support level. If we got the opportunity to pull back to 99 to 95, that would be great for a bounce down there. But it depends on how aggressive you want to be. Do you think this thing's just going to keep higher? Then you buy the breakout and have a protective stop somewhere 113, 110. If you want to wait for a pullback and be okay with not getting filled, maybe 99 price range, okay? So those would be a couple considerations for support levels to consider for Sanmina. Great suggestion there. Thank you very much. Let's move forward. Hood. All-time highs on Hood. I don't know exactly what to say here other than there's no resistance to consider. There are a couple support levels. Anytime you're in an uptrend, you find the nearest support level, you can try to trade it. Okay, so I want to point that out. So great suggestion, Daniel. I do want to point this out, however. On X, PelicanTrader, I posted in February, could Hood be the next Palantir and run from 50 to 100? I was just using the Palantir chart, going like, oh, that looks a lot like Palantir did before it ran from 50 to 100. And that's kind of exactly what Hood did. It ran from 50 to actually 114. So I'm a little biased in that my initial interest was around 50. But I'm not looking past. You don't look back. You don't get paid for past performance is not indicative of future results. That's an industry phrase. Okay. So there is a support level to consider if you were interested in a pullback on Hood. There's support level right here in the 110 to 108. There's another support level in the 103 to 101. And then these crazy wicks down here, let's go see if, yeah, there's the level down there. That level is right down here in the 94 to 90 range. So 3 support levels to consider on Robinhood. Great suggestion, Daniel. Let's move forward. Last one. K-Swings wants to know if there's some technical clues here in Gen Digital. So I'm going to change the time frame to daily, and we'll notice that Gen Digital is near all-time highs. So the first thing I'm going to notice is there's a resistance level right here, right? So we found resistance at the 70 to 31.75 price range. So there's definitely resistance up there. If we can break above there, maybe pull back and bounce and continue higher. So that's very interesting. There is, change the time frame and go see if there's some support. Yeah, we don't have any technical support until down here where we gapped up from on Friday. So our support level is right down here. Okay, so maybe if we could get a pullback to 28, trade that. Other than that, there's no real technical support to look for a bounce trade other than a pullback to 28, 23. Once again, a breakout above this resistance level off to the races. Then you just look for support levels above there as they form. Okay. So great suggestions, everyone. This has been a longer session. Hopefully, this recording will actually be able to follow. I want to thank you all for your great suggestions. Great suggestions. I liked every single one of these suggestions. There was interesting. Great looking support and resistance levels. Definitely tradable. You got to be nimble on a few of them. Some of them were in downtrends, some in uptrends. I would favor this. If you want to go long, I'd favor the stocks in an uptrend. Once again, I'm generally not a bounce buyer. I don't try to catch a falling knife. Okay. But let's wrap up the session. Hope you enjoyed the session, everybody. I'll be back each day this week for more technical analysis. I'm really looking forward to doing another one of these sessions. These are very, very constructive. So thank you all for your suggestions. I'll be back once again each day this week. In the meantime, wishing you the best of luck.